Today I want to talk about the importance of Full House to the drama 2521, and you might be asking, what exactly is Full House? This is of course the very popular comic in the drama that Hito, Yurim, and all the girls in high school seem to be really obsessed about, and you're probably wondering, why do they love this comic so much? You might also be wondering, are there any secret meanings in the comic that translate to the drama? And I would say yes, because books and movies mentioned in dramas are often selected carefully because they do tell you about the world of the drama, and they often leave clues about the characters and what might happen to them in the future. For those who don't know what Full House is, it's a manhwa or comic series, and it was written by Won Soo-yeon, and it was first published in 1993. There's 16 volumes in the series, so I guess it makes sense that by 1998, which is when 2521 takes place, they would be up to volume 11 or 12, which are the books that are featured inside the drama. And if you remember, volume 12 is that book that Hito and Yurim fight over, and they almost rip it up. And poor Yijin is forced to choose between his lifelong friend and his new friend, who he potentially is starting to crush on. And it's just so funny because he has no idea how to sort out two very angry teenage girls fighting over the same thing. The story of Full House is about this Korean girl called Lee who lives in London because her family moves there when she's young. Both her parents pass away and she's an aspiring screenwriter. Life's a bit lonely, but she takes comfort in the estate which her dad built and left to her, and her beautiful home is called Full House, hence the title of the series. But one day she gets evicted, and the person trying to buy her house turns out to be this world famous movie star called Ryder Bay. And while she's trying to figure out what's happening, she narrowly avoids getting hit by a car, but it does run over her foot. It turns out this accident is caused by Ryder Bay himself, so Ellie asks for her house back. Ryder says no at this point, but of course, because this is a girly comic book, he asks Ellie if she wants to get into a marriage contract with him. Why am I not surprised? This is one of those big tropes in comic books, and actually it's pretty much a trope in dramas as well, so yes, I'm really not surprised. At this point, they both decide to enter into the contract marriage because they both have their own motives. So Ellie needs a place to stay and she wants to find a way to get Full House back for herself, and Ryder, I think, needs Ellie to help with making one of his ex-girlfriends jealous or something like that. And so the comic is about their explosive marriage and how they eventually fall in love with each other, even though they fight a lot and it started out as a bit of a sham marriage. There's a few reasons why Full House is the comic that is shown in this drama. So the first is that it's a popular Korean comic series as opposed to a Japanese comic series, which most comics probably were at the time, and it was one of the most famous series in that era, in the 90s. So selecting Full House as Hito's favorite comic book in the show is literally showcasing what was really popular in the era in Korea for teenage girls during that time. And the story of Full House itself is quite different to the drama 2521 in that the drama is not a contract marriage story, and unlike the characters of Full House, Hito and Yijin are not going from enemies to lovers. In fact, they have a more realistic slow burn friendship where there's underlying feelings developing from them being on the same wavelength and caring for each other as really good friends. But I think it's pretty obvious that there will be a time jump, so at some point I anticipate that they might hurt each other's feelings or drift apart and then meet up again in the future. But at the moment it doesn't seem like they really have a hate-love relationship. It seems like they have a very strong friendship and are potentially noticing each other in a slightly romantic way. But even though the comic Full House and the drama 2521 are not exactly the same, there are a lot of parallels between both the stories. And the first thing is that Hito would really love the main character Ellie because she's just like her. Ellie is super intense and she's also someone who's very high-spirited, and when circumstances are really bad with her losing her family and then her house to Ryder Bay, she's not passive, she fights back, even if it means doing something totally reckless to get it back, like entering into a marriage contract. And we all just saw how reckless Hito was, trying to get into fights and go illegal clubbing as a minor, just so she could transfer into the school with her dream fencing team. So in many ways, Hito mirrors Lee, and she also mentions that she thinks Ryder Bay is very good looking to Yijin, which is probably one of her other motivations to read the books. The other big parallel between Full House and 2521 is actually between Yijin and Lee. So like Ellie, Yijin's life changes overnight when his family becomes bankrupt. He also loses his family in the sense that they all have to split apart and live in different places, and to be honest, he probably loses his house as well because it seems like they would have had to use all their money to cover their debts. So in some ways, Full House seems to reflect Yijin's personal story as well, and it makes sense that the comic book connects both Hito and Yijin together because they share elements of that story. So Yijin is stuck in the same tough scenario as the main main character Ellie, but he looks to Hito, who has the same sort of personality as Ellie, to carry on and to give himself hope. If you're interested in giving Full House a read, it's been licensed with English translations, and I've dropped the links in my show notes so you can check it out there. So to finish off, I just want to say that this video is actually a snippet of a longer podcast, and you can listen to it for free on Spotify or other podcasting platforms. And if you're interested, I'll drop the link down below in the comments so you can check that out. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next video.